So if you're in a position right now where your business is completely stuck, this podcast episode is for you, because I'm going to discuss with you two of the biggest things I've learned this week, in a week which has been very, very successful for me, that I can give to you to implement into your own business, your own life, which can help you get to the next step ahead. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you have done. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Charlie Johnson Show, and also the podcast, Physically Jacked Podcast. Now, to get into things, there's two huge things that I've learned this week which made a massive difference. Now, the first one is when you actually look at your business, if you run an online coaching business, there's a huge amount of people who are focusing on completely the wrong things. And I often think about this, my gift and what I'm really good at is marketing. So I try and solve every single problem I can with marketing. Now, the reality is this isn't often the issue. And in most people's businesses, if you go into online coaching, you love fitness, you love coaching, you spend too much time focusing on the coaching perspective and not on the number one thing you actually need to fix, which is obscurity. Not enough people know you. So you need to make more content, get more traffic, get more eyeballs. So the two big things that are holding you right back, we're going to break down now section by section. So first one we talked about a little bit is traffic. Secondly is actually recruitment. You are in the people game. And I spoke about this at length at our event last week in Marbella. Currently in Marbella as well, you see from the background. And in terms of why recruitment is so important, is you are only as good as your people in your business. And there's some huge changes I've made in our own business, which have allowed us to move forwards faster and also putting less stress on me personally, which is helping me get to the next level. And I'm going to share with you now. And I look back in hindsight and think, like, how did I not know these things? But you don't know what you don't know. So some really important things to think about when it comes to this. If we look at recruitment, one of the things you need to have is a recruitment pipeline, a recruitment funnel. So an actual process in terms of how you bring in high quality people into your business, you systematize this. And what you basically want is like a shop shelf where you can just pull people in when you're ready to go, whether that be coaches, whether that be setters, whether that be closers, whether that be video editors, whatever it is. And we showed this whole presentation. I showed a whole process of how this works with a whole flow at our mastermind event last weekend. And this has allowed us to move our business forward a lot faster. And it's also mean that we can hire ahead of where we need to be. So we're interviewing people for job roles that we don't even have a vacancy yet, but I know we will do in the future. And this is so important for you to understand that you have to bring the right people in. Because if you have the wrong person, the problem is the opportunity cost is huge. It can set you back 6 months in your business if you hire the wrong person. Think how long it takes you to hire and train someone for a closing role. Think how long it takes someone to hire and train for a setting role. How many leads do they burn through? How many clients do they burn through that you didn't sign up? How much money did you lose? It's astronomical, which is why the game is hiring great talent, developing them, and then keeping them for as long as possible. And this is where team culture is a huge thing. So when we have like big mastermind events that we did last weekend, I really go above and beyond to make sure that our team enjoys it. We go for nice meals. We create that driven culture. And when we talk about culture, one of the things that we're now doing, which we should have been doing before, is having company meetings every 3 months, every quarter. Every single person, everyone from our fitness business there, everyone from our 7-figure scaling systems there, all the concept teams there, every single person who employs there. It's like 50 people. Now, why this is important is we can give people a brief overview in terms of where the business is at, what our goals are for the next quarter, what are the big projects that each department's focusing on, who's like been the best employee of this quarter, who's the most improved, what are the big needle movers of what we really need to focus on, what did we make a mistake on in the last quarter. If your team don't know what's going wrong, they can't help you to fix the problem. So when it comes to you actually getting the right talent, actually communicating them with them correctly is hugely, hugely, hugely important. Now, when we look at training and hiring people, there's a couple of key places you can look to hire people. Number one, I'm a big fan of Upwork. You can also use Fiverr. Number two is we have the SICK recruitment company we use, which is based in the Philippines. If anyone needs access to that, I can put you in touch. Thirdly would be looking at referrals from your existing team members. So if you want staff who are really good like your existing team members, guess what? They probably have friends who are similar to them, who you may well want to try and hire. That would be a very good suggestion. Next up would be actually posting on your own social media, because people who follow you, who are fanboys, who buy into the process of what you do and what your brand represents are going to be the best people you can hire. Alongside, lastly, success stories. Clients who've been through your process, got really good results, who you can take in, who love you and like you've changed their life, they can then help change other people's lives. This works very well from a coaching perspective. Secondly, works phenomenally well for sales closing positions. Because if, say, for example, I'm selling weight loss programs and I was on Itaza's weight loss program and he got me in the best shape of my life, I could be like, Charlie, look, here was me on Itaza's program. This is me before, this is me now. He literally changed my life. And on that call, all you're doing is telling stories of how the program worked and how it helped you change your life. And this is a huge thing you have to understand, is that everything in life is a sell and everything is storytelling. Whether you're looking to hire great talent, you have to think about you're selling those people to come work for you. Whether you're hiring great talent, you have to tell those people your story, you and your brand and what that represents and why they should come work for you. Everything is storytelling and branding. And this is why this is so important that you interlink this into the recruitment process, because you bringing the wrong people into your business is fucking you over big time. And if I put it like this to you, listen to this. If you had 5 of you in your business right now, exactly the same as you, the owner, the founder, you're listening to this right now, like, yeah, I'm a killer, but everyone else is terrible, or it's like average. If you had 5 of you, where would your business be? So what do you think the biggest thing you should focus on doing? Is getting more people at your level who can help move the business forwards. And actually, when you get further down the rabbit hole, which is where I am right now, I'm trying to bring people in for specific roles who are better than I am, who have better skill sets at content, who have better skill sets at strategy, who have better skill sets at organizing a business, better skill sets at finance. This is where you have to understand it's a game of recruitment of people. And at the beginning, you can wing it and get away with it, but you can only wing it so far, and you'll see how that really changes. Now, the second key thing we need to think about when you're looking to try and grow your business is that once you have the best people in the world, or you have a great team, the other thing you actually have to start the whole fucking process off is traffic. You have to have people coming to you, whether this be from paid ads or whether it be from organic content. Now, this happens in a couple of different ways. One, you actually have to have some credibility. No one's going to listen to me from a business perspective if I didn't have a business. If I lived in my mum's basement and had never made any money in my life, the story would be irrelevant. How the fact that I've sold 11, maybe $12 million online right now, I have been doing this. I left my full-time job 25th of February 2019. Gives you some context in terms of how far I've gone. So do clearly know something. And this is something important to understand. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove, which is why results are so important with everything you do. So if you're a fitness trainer and you're watching this and your business is struggling right now, look at yourself in the mirror. Would you hire yourself as a fitness coach? Do you look in good shape? If you're someone who's a business coach watching this, would you hire yourself? Do you have successful business? Do you have a track record of business success behind you? Success leaves clues. It's very, very simple. And this is why actually when you add traffic to this mix, it becomes even more wonderful. Because when you've got a story to tell, you've done the thing and you've got a story, like you've got social proof behind you and you've got credibility, you just need to tell the story over and over and over again and get better at the skill of storytelling and just literally keep pushing the narrative and understand what do your clients really want. So if I actually look at why we built 7-figure scaling systems, the 3 things I've always wanted in life are financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. Very, very simple. What are the 3 things my clients want in 7-figure scaling systems? Time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom. Because I built the thing for me for a few years ago. So I know the exact pain points they have because that was me and that is still me. And this is why it's important to understand the avatar of the person you're speaking to. And this is why I think niching is a big mistake a lot of people struggle with. Because the best way to find your niche is solve problems you've already solved. So solve the problems you had 3 to 5 years ago. Was it you were skinny fat? Was it you lost 100 pounds? Was it you were really unfit and you couldn't walk upstairs? Whatever it was. What was the problem you've overcome? You know what the solution is. And you have the proof behind you, you've done the thing. This is very, very, very important. Now, when it comes to traffic, there's a few things I think about as well. So we want to get traffic from different sources. One of the most dangerous games where you guys are literally like playing with fire and putting your dick in the pencil sharpener right now is just using Instagram. I'm going to repeat that again. If you're just using Instagram, you're putting your dick in the pencil sharpener. This is not a fun situation. I know probably 20 people have had their accounts suspended and come back in the last week or two. If your sole income is based on this, this is insane. This is why it's so important to diversify into other platforms. For example, podcasts, big fan. YouTube, big fan. Obviously, long form content has more challenges in terms of it takes more time to produce. It's slower to build up. However, the leverage on long form content is wild. In fact, I had someone come up to me yesterday in Oxygen Gym in Marbella. They were like, "Oh, I saw you speaking to George Armstrong on your podcast." Like, came and introduced himself. Dude, I can't even remember when I filmed that podcast. So like, people are still watching and listening stuff from years ago that I made. And this is the relevance that people need to understand, is that if you want to go really far and you want to have a business and that you want a legacy that's going to be doing more than coaching for the next 2-3 years, then in terms of what you should be doing is planning ahead, because long form content is going to compound for you. It's like a background energy, an engine that's going to be generating views. And if you want an example of this, check out, if you put Charlie Johnson CJ coaching into YouTube, you will see my fitness YouTube channel. There are videos on there of me doing back warm-up routines that have nearly 100,000 views. That's 100,000 people have seen me showing a mobility routine of how to warm up before training back. That has some value. Do you know how much that cost me? Absolutely zero. And this is why we are now going super heavy into long-form content. The fact that we're starting to make fitness YouTube content again. We have a podcast YouTube channel, which you should go and subscribe to, which is a Charlie Johnson Show. We have a business YouTube channel, which is Charlie Johnson Scaling Systems. We also have our podcast, the Physically Jacked podcast. This is the most important thing for you to understand, the compound effect of long form content. It will change your life. It is hard. It takes time, but it will have more impact than anything else. And one thing I'd say to anyone listening to this, I'm trying to create as much value as I can with the podcast and the videos we're creating. So if anyone screenshots this and shares it to their stories on Instagram, say it's great, please leave us a 5-star review. I will also repost you on Instagram to give you free advertising across our 500,000 followers we have on Instagram. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in terms of when it comes to content is the first thing you actually need to do is understand the value of your time. You should not be editing your own stuff. You can pay someone $5 an hour, $6 an hour to edit your reels, edit your YouTube videos, upload this stuff, put it all together for you so you don't have to fuck around doing this. If your time is worth more than that, which if you're watching this, it will be. If you are watching this and it's worth less than your time's worth less than $5 an hour, go do something else. Go and read Atomic Habits and some finance books, because you need to learn how to utilize your time better. The reality is, this is like the best use of your time you can do is you be in front of the camera, you have someone else film it, and then you literally get someone else to edit it, put it into the world. Costs you absolutely nothing. And the attention arbitrage for this is getting smaller. And what I mean by this is that there's more content coming out, which means it's going to be harder for you to get this type of attention over the next few years, which means there's essentially a digital social media land grab right now where you need to be the one who's actually trying to grab the land and get the assets, which is why we have multiple YouTube channels, why we have a podcast, multiple Instagram accounts. We're building our email list. And that's even another beautiful thing about long form content. With long form content, you can pull people into your lead magnets to get their emails. You can get them to book sales calls directly without having to do anything. And it costs you absolutely nothing. And for anyone who's doing podcasts, I'm going to give you a second big tip. Do you want to know the biggest podcast platform in the world? YouTube, which most people don't actually understand. So the two things you need to focus on in your business that you're not actually understanding right now, it's not a game of coaching, it's a game of recruitment, and it's a game of traffic and content, which is why I actually look at my business now like a media business. I'm almost looking at my company that I have three. I have CJ Coaching, our fitness business. I have 7-Figure Scaling Systems, helping people build world-class businesses to have financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. And thirdly, we have a media company, which is essentially pushing our content and traffic out into the world to give as much value as possible. Those are the two things you need to focus on. Now, next thing I want to touch on is the big lesson I've learned this week. I recorded one of the best podcasts I've ever done this week with a guy called Paul Daly, who was the COO for Iman Ghazi. Absolutely wild. And a huge thing I'm going to tell you about with this is I'm naturally a very introverted, shy person. And this is like a law of attraction 101, how I met Paul. So I fanboyed Paul, found him on a podcast with a guy called Eddie Malouf, and then went on a stalk, found loads of other podcasts he was on, then went through his YouTube channel and watched a lot of his YouTube channel. His content's really, really good. So I'd go and suggest you check him out and subscribe. Now, lo and behold, I'm sitting outside our Marbella event with two of our clients, Harry Knights and Reese Hullard. I look up, and who do I see strolling around the Puente Romana Hotel? Paul Daly with Rob Lipset. And Rob was just speaking at our event. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I've got to speak to this guy. So I got up, ran over. I was like, hey, Paul, big fan. I watch your YouTube channel. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. No one really watches our YouTube, because he's got a small channel similar to ours. But the reality is, a few years ago, I would never have gone up and spoken to someone I didn't know, who I just watched their YouTube channel. But what did Paul do next? He gave me his phone number, we connected, and then I did the most important thing that every single person listening to this needs to do. I outreached and I asked for the sale. And what do I mean by asked for the sale? I asked him about, would you come on and do a podcast with me? So we did a podcast, we also went out for dinner, and I took tons and tons of value from this. Now, the most important thing I'd say in terms of we took from the podcast perspective is, and you have to listen to it to go through all the notes, but it's the value in terms of the ability to operate and manage a team and communication cadences. So the importance in terms of you actually communicating with your team effectively, because I've seen a lot of mixed messaging before from other people I've worked with in the business space who have said, you don't want to speak to your team too much, just send them a Loom video, don't get them on calls, blah, 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 blah. And one of the things we did 6-7 weeks ago on advice from Bedros Keuilian was we brought in our FLIT training, Future Leaders in Training, essentially 3 20-minute training calls a week with me teaching leadership skills to our core people in our business. This has had a monumental effect on our business. And this is where actually speaking to Paul, he speaks to the key people who report to him every single day for 15, 20 minutes. Now, the biggest golden nugget I can give you that I got from him was what he does is he gets his key people in his business to send him a Loom video at the end of every single day with exactly what they've done and exactly what they're going to do tomorrow. Like, what's the one big thing you're going to do tomorrow that's going to move the business forwards? And like, be a creator. So like, build assets, build people in the business, move things forwards. What's the big thing that's actually going to do that? And you get your staff members to send it to the end of every day so you can review it, so you can see actually what's going on. And then secondly, you can course correct them if they're doing stuff they shouldn't be. This is the quickest feedback you can ever get in terms of running your team. And I give an example in terms of yesterday morning, I was stretching after training legs and I was watching Loom videos from my team and like what they were doing and what's going on the next day or two. And I could give them feedback whilst doing that. So I wasn't having to have meetings, very, very time efficient. It's time efficient for them. And this is how you can get the boat to go faster, is you get everyone aligned, everyone working towards one objective and to one goal. And this is the simplest thing that everyone who's watching this right now, you need to implement in your business. Now, a huge red flag of what he said to me, he asked me a brilliant question on the podcast. He was like, how many staff members do you have? And I was like, 54. He's like, how many people have you hired? I was like, maybe roughly 100, 120. He's like, that's nowhere near enough. Nowhere near enough. And what he meant by that was that we hadn't turned over enough people. And I agree 1,000%. We have kept people for too long who aren't good enough. And you do not want to do this one thing. Don't let other people's incompetence let you hold you back from achieving the dreams of what you want to achieve. I'll say it again. Don't let other people's incompetence hold you back from achieving your dreams. Because this is a huge thing that happens when you bring in people into your team who are like a 5 out of 10. If you bring someone in who's an 8 or a 9 out of 10, you're going to get 3 times as much out of them. And if you've got a team of 10, 20 people like that, your business will move forward so much faster. And this is where you need to reframe your thinking and understand that you have to be cruel to be kind. You have to cut the fat of shit people in your business to protect the good people, to keep the good people around longer, and to help them make more money as well as you. So a huge thing to do is make sure that you're turning over and getting rid of bad people. I can guarantee you, I've got probably 10, 20 people a day asking me for a job. Thousands and millions of people who want jobs online, phone closing, setting, editing videos, operational jobs, and online coaching. There is no shortage of people who want positions. There's just a shortage of people who are actually smart enough to try and employ them in the correct manner and actually teach and train them. And this is where you need to reframe your thoughts. And then the last thing I'm going to say that I want everyone to really like nail down with this is you need to understand the values of who you are and what your company represents. So for 7-figure scaling systems, what we represent is this. We help trainers through our business systems and not flogging themselves to death, how to build businesses that create time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom to give them the lives they want. Very, very simple. So what is the company value of what you do and you help everyone else achieve? If you took value from this podcast, make sure you subscribe. Please take a screenshot of this, share it with a friend, smash the like button, and we'll see you in the next episode very, very soon.